How to make a mixtape.
Now, the making of a good compilation tape is a very subtle art, many do's and don'ts. First of all, you're using someone else's poetry to express how you feel. This is a delicate thing. You gotta kick it off with a killer, grab attention. Then you gotta take it up a notch. But you don't want to blow your wad, so then you gotta cool it off a notch. And there are a lot of rules.
We are back. How to make a mixtape.
We're back, bitches.
Here we go. Hey.
You're back from across the pond.
Back.
You were not there a long time.
Like 4 full days. Kind of like 4.5 days-ish. Yeah.
And I had heavy opinions on your football experience.
Did you? Yeah, you were texting.
We were chatting about it.
Yeah.
So that pub that you were at is at the stadium.
It's right outside the stadium, yeah. It's like a local pub is right there. Yeah.
And so that TV really doesn't serve a purpose at all.
No, it's just showing like old highlights, like best of the team or whatever. There's a band playing in the thing.
But there's no situation where if I don't have tickets to the game, I can go watch the game right across the street in this pub.
No, it's actually, they're blacked out locally. Like the US does that too with some sports where like you can't watch the game that's being played locally on TV.
That's kind of shitty.
It is. I mean, the US does that too. And like, I think the NFL
I'm saying
does
it's
that
shitty
stuff,
across the board.
I think it's shitty in this world. I think it used to make sense because they wanted to make sure they sold out games, but you don't have to worry about selling out in any of these games anymore. They all sell out.
Yeah.
Like all sports, basically, all those major sports sell out now, and then you're just punishing people who couldn't get tickets. But yes. Yeah. Just for the listeners, I posted a video of a pub before the Liverpool game, everybody singing, and there's a TV on in the background. And Donnie was like, so nobody's even watching the game. Yeah. But then I had to say,
before the game, and like the game was going to be played soon. And then did you guys sing like Truly, Madly, Deeply as you walked across the street to the game, like all together?
I mean, sorry, no, not necessarily as we walked over. There's lots of singing during the game and stuff.
A lot of songs.
Yeah. Like some of them are real songs. Kit? Some of them are made up songs for players and things. Yeah, I wore kit, but it was too cold to see it. I mean, had my coat on and everything, but I really, the game was in Liverpool, but we stayed in Manchester most of the time this time because we've done Liverpool. We wanted to see what Manchester was about, and I tagged the shit out of that, or at least portions of that city. There are how to make a mixtape stickers everywhere.
Yeah, fingers crossed we see a boost in European listens.
We'll see. Shout out to Darcy, Ollie, and Neil. I met some guys at like a menswear store, like a boutique there, and we were talking, and I know they listened to the pod already.
Prior?
So no,
they were already listeners?
No. That would have been incredible. No. Like we were talking,
you
and
almost blew my friggin' mind.
They instantly went and listened because I went back in there my last day to spend some more money because I have a clothing addiction. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we listened." Like as soon as you walked out, we like put it on.
I'm going snowboarding tomorrow.
Yeah, is that Nick Green's doing something with you guys? Yeah, I saw that. That's awesome.
An event at Devil's Head. Yeah,
I've been watching a lot more snowboard videos and stuff this year. Like I'm kind of
new shit or old shit
jonesing to ride. Well, not even videos, just like people who ride, like people posting stuff on Instagram reels and stuff of them riding, and just me wishing I was riding. Part of it's because it's still like we've been getting a lot of snow here and stuff, and so just being around the
Currently
snow, I'm
you
like,
are?
yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it snowed all night. Snowed all day yesterday, all night. Like whenever there's snow on the ground, I just wish I was riding.
Yeah, it's true.
You looking forward to it? When was the last time you rode? Have you rode recently?
January 2024.
Okay, so it's been over a year.
And a little over a year. Got a new board. Excited about that.
That's all. I need a new board.
Oh, we'll chat. We'll chat after the pod.
Oh, you're gonna hook me up with a new board?
We'll chat after the pod.
Okay. Cool. What else been going on with you?
It's we live in fucking Hoth in Chicago right now.
Yeah.
Like I'm just waiting to see a Tauntaun run down the road, and I'm going to cut that bitch open and climb inside. I woke up this morning. It was 2. We're climbing out of the cold spell here, but this is like the worst fucking time of winter, man. You don't have any holidays to look forward to. Everything cool is over with. You are just itching to get outside. Like February 20th fucking sucks.
You're just waiting for spring.
Sucks.
And it's not coming.
And it's not coming. It's cold. I want to wash my truck. I want to go outside and play.
Puxatawny Phil saw a shadow, man.
Stuck.
Like he warned us, you know?
I don't believe in fucking groundhogs predicting the future.
Well, he was right. I mean,
I don't believe in that shit.
What, you been listening to anything new?
Oh,
watching
dude,
anything
yes. New? Yes, I have been listening to something new. No, I've only been watching old, but I have been listening to new. Let me get up here really quickly, and I can tell you what was the new thing I listened to. Spirit World.
I'm not familiar.
Dude, it is like the best Tex-Mex bro metal you'll ever hear in your life.
Tex-Mex bro metal.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've heard any Tex-Mex bro metal in my life.
You're about to.
Hell yeah.
It feels kind of like Pantera.
Okay. I feel you. Yeah, it's got that. It does have that Western. That is the cowboy. It's cowboy metal.
Cowboy metal. Yeah. But they wear.
You added some mechs in here, though.
Yeah. They wear like very fancy suits.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm into it.
Like a lot of embellishment.
Yeah. Like those like the fancy cowboy.
Yeah. Fancy cowboys.
Things. Yeah.
So yeah, you got to dip your toe in Spirit World. They got a new album coming out in March. And then what I'm watching is just old shit. In the midst of Bunker Down Wintertime ER.
Okay.
You haven't watched ER in the last 10 years. 15 seasons, 20 episodes a season. I'm going to be hooked on that one for a while. And then I dip my toe back in the American Shameless.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ripping through that. It's background sound. It's fine. I have trouble with character development in that one, but it's good. What about you?
Speaking of watching, and we've talked about crying on planes before, but I made the mistake of watching We Live in Time.
What's We Live in Time?
It's Andrew Garfield and Pugh. What's her name?
Florence
Pugh. And I had a friend say it was really good and it was worth watching and it was romantic. And I was like, it was on the plane. I was like, okay, I'll watch something romantic. This is cool. He didn't say it would absolutely crush me. I had to stop like 5 times because I was going to start like bawling. Like it was bad. It was hard. It was a hard watch. It is romantic, but it's also incredibly sad.
It's kind of like, from what you're describing, it feels like La La Land.
Don't watch it on a plane. Like, but once I started it, I'm like, well, I'm on this emotional kind of trip now. I'm going to stay on it. But
let me wait. Hold on. There's a lot of important pieces that we've left out. Were you the aisle middle window?
I was it was one of those big international planes. So it was 9 wide. So I'm aisle, but in the middle.
Oh, that seats. Sucks. Okay, so you're a middle aisle.
To the left of me was a family with 5 children who were.
So you got people on both sides
who were. Let's just say they were being children the entire flight. Like it is what it is. You're flying with 5 small children on a 6-hour, 7-hour flight. The woman next to me was like asleep the whole time, so that was good.
Okay.
And I was like crying into my Salisbury steak, my airplane Salisbury steak.
You got a full meal? I've never gotten a meal on a plane. Meal.
You will when you fly to Tokyo. It's just like included in the price. Yeah. And then watching and listening. But did you watch the SNL 50 concert?
Dude, I've seen so many clips and I want to watch it so bad, but I want to like sit down and like dedicate the time to it. I have not. It's long.
It's long. And I mean, streaming is nice because you can skip. There's a couple I just really didn't care about, so I skipped them. It's not a quality judgment, just not my thing. There were some surprises, so I'm not going to talk about the surprises if you haven't watched it.
So the only clip I watched was the Andy Samberg Lady Gaga one.
It's fantastic.
I watched that.
Probably the second biggest highlight of the whole night was that one. I don't think they did enough of the. They only did like maybe 3 or 4 like comedy music things. And that one was fantastic.
What was your number one highlight without giving the details away?
I have to. What do you mean? I have to give the details away.
Just say who's involved.
It's all over the internet, so I'm not spoiling anything. It's Nirvana.
Okay. Oh, no, didn't. Oh, I did know that. Yeah, I did see that.
Nirvana. They called it Post Nirvana because Post Malone did.
That's right. Yeah, I did see that.
Who, by the way, he crushed it. Like, whatever you think about Post Malone, he crushed.
I saw the clip of that. Yeah,
and it was Nirvana playing again on national television. It was wild, or streaming television. Yeah. There's a couple surprises that I didn't expect, and they crushed too. There's a non-surprise in that Cher looks incredible and sings incredible. Still,
I got a deep pit in my heart for Cher. I love Cher.
So there's a lot of older musicians on there, and they sounded older, and that's not a knock. That's what happens. You get older. I was impressed that they could sing at all, some of them. And like Bonnie Raitt sounds a lot older, but she still sounds incredible. Yeah. But Cher just straight up still sounds like Cher from the 80s. It is insane.
I want to go sing I Found Someone at karaoke with you.
We should.
I'm down.
The last one, there's other highlights, but I really enjoyed Robin and David Byrne. So David Byrne of Talking Heads came out and did a Robin song with Robin, and then they did a Talking Heads song together.
Oh, that's cool.
And Robin is just a badass.
You weren't going to say badass. You were going to say babe, weren't you?
She's a babe too. She's a badass babe.
She's a badass babe.
Her and Cher both badass babes.
Badass babes.
Anyway, there's a lot to it. You should absolutely watch it. I'm
excited to check it out.
Whether you like SNL or not, like it's very little comedy. It's mostly just musicians that were like important through the history of SNL performing.
I feel you.
The Fugees performed too.
Oh no shit! They were on tour last year.
Well, let's get into this episode. This is like the OG. This is the OG.
This is officially what started it all.
This is what started it all. So I think we need to get the guests in so we can talk about that. Right?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, well, let's do that. All right.
Started it all.
Do you like little gimmicks? I can make that happen for you. How was that?
No, and we need to know, like, what is it?
So I make stickers for people and companies alike. I've been working with tattoo shops and clothing brands making their stickers for them.
Ooh. So if you have a small business or a tattoo shop or a clothing brand or a podcast that you want to advertise for, there's big things from Little Gimmicks. And the fact that you haven't used that once in the tagline for the Instagram is a fucking abomination.
See, I'm purposely not doing that. I don't want you to have any stamp on what I'm actually trying to accomplish here.
What a dick.
Doug, if they mention how to make a mixtape podcast, what do they get?
They get 10% off their order.
There we go.
Doug at littlegimmicks.com. That's the best way for me to see your requests, by the way.
Big things from Little Gimmicks. Buy some stickers, maybe B-. Sometimes good, sometimes maybe shit.
Cool.
I've loved our stickers. I slapped those things on a lot of urinals, and they've
been fucking great.
Hold up to piss. Great. There's your There's your new tagline.
That's the advertisement.
That's the tagline. Little Gimmicks. They hold up to piss. Great.
How to make a mixtape.
This is the one that started it all. This is the one that got everything going.
It is.
This was a text chain originally. This wasn't an episode. Shane, did you make the playlist of these songs that we originally sent to Cross?
I don't know that I did, but it was always sort of bubbling there, like as a ongoing theme.
Yeah. Just as a reminder, because we've talked about this before, but if people didn't hear, the three of us were heavily, well, still are, I guess, because there's a new one, but we're heavily into Rob Harvilla's 60 songs that explain the 90s. The last time our guest here, Shane, was on, in fact, we did songs that we thought Rob missed on that podcast. And Rob now past guest on the show, Rob Harvilla. He now has 60 songs that explain the 90s, the 2000s. But we were highly into that show. And Shane, you sent the text, right? We were texting a lot about the show. Mm-hmm. And at some point it came up like...
I texted Shane originally and said, Shane, if you're not listening to this podcast, 60 songs that explain the 90s, you need to stop whatever you're doing and start listening to this right now. And within 2 days, Shane had listened to like the 8 episodes that were out and was like, yep, we're good. We're good for the foreseeable future. And so then the text exchange between Shane and I started. And then quickly thereafter, I was like, Roderick, this is the podcast for all of us. And so then we started the 3-way chat. Mm-hmm. And then in a van, I decided it would be really fun to create a podcast about making mixtapes.
Yes. And the first topic, the topic that was used as an example is today's theme. Which, Shane, we always let the guest announce it. So what's today's theme?
Today's theme is songs from tapes that were in your dad's car or truck.
Dad's cassettes.
Really specific. And I'm really committed to the specificity of this.
I am too, although I can't remember. I was a little too young before CDs switched. There's some of these I remember being taped specifically, and there are some that had to have been. Absolutely had to have been because of the amount we listened to them. Yeah. I tried to be the same, Shane. I tried to be like, yes, this was a tape in my dad's car.
I did my list and prepping for this, and it was like, there are things that remind me of my dad probably more, but they were records that were played at home, and they were records that we had on LP or we had on CD, and I have distinct memories of the home stereo. This is like, these were car, like an only car.
Cassettes. It's funny to go back. Like, I follow some car Instagrams you know, or whatever, and you see like those restorations of like antique cars, and they show the cassette deck of like the buttons, the knobs for the volume, and it's like I can feel that click. I can feel that fast forward click, and I want that back.
Yeah, somebody was talking recently. I don't remember what it was, a podcast or what the format was, but they were talking about that idea of the tactile experience of moving knobs and pushing buttons, and actually choosing a car based on having that and not having a touch screen. And like, I want that experience of things that click and things that click into place and go on and off and that sort of
at times. And you have to, or you know the spot to hit your dashboard to get the thing to kick on. Honestly, right? There's all those like, because you're dealing with like real mechanisms and not a computer. So I mean, we probably all grew up, our first cars all had cassette decks in them, right? Like I mean, we had to plug the tape converter with the cord in it that just ate the cord eventually because it drops it down and in the cassette, I don't know, the whole thing
that plugged into the aux cord of the Discman that the passenger had to hold with both hands.
Had to hold, or you got fancy and got Velcro and Velcroed it to your console like me. But nobody's ever in my car. I didn't have friends.
Yeah.
So Shane, did your dad, Shane and Donnie, I guess, did your dads, were they big album guys? Like, did they have a lot of cassettes and albums and then CDs and stuff? And is that how you consumed music when you were a kid? Was through your parents' album collections? Yeah,
sort of thinking through this process for this episode, I was really exploring sort of my own musical journey and where that came from and what those influences are. And my dad was a huge one. Like you take in music from older siblings or friends or sort of people you look up to in your peer community. But it was, my mom had a specific kind of music. My dad had a specific kind of music, and he was for sure the tape head, and he was just a fan of songs and well-written craft of music. What about you, Donnie?
So my dad wasn't a cheap guy. He was a cheap guy. My dad was a cheap guy. And so the best move to get the most music was to buy the greatest hits. So Dad had a lot of artists' greatest hits. And I think that 3 of my 4 songs are from my memory of the greatest hits cassettes of the bands. Whoa. Where I remember the song order of the greatest hits. Yeah. I don't remember the song order of the actual album.
You know what? I didn't think about it, but 2 of mine, maybe even 3 of mine are also greatest hits. I think what it was for me was my dad had a pretty big record collection from when he was in college and
vinyl,
out of vinyl. Yeah. Growing, and he kind of didn't like, it was like a special treat when I could convince him to let me listen to records in the house. Like it became a thing that was no longer convenient, but he kept them. And I think just like probably a lot of people our parents' age, when it came to, you can call it cheap, but it's also practical. It's like, I already have albums 1 through 5 from this band, and now I'm not going to buy the cassette tapes for them again. I'm going to buy the greatest hits for my car. Yeah. And then CDs came. So then it was the same. And it got to the point where my dad, even though he had a lot of, I remember going through his tape storage thing after he no longer kept tapes in the car. They were then in his like office or whatever. My dad had a really nice stereo, but we never listened to any of the physical media. My dad was a radio guy. My dad had his stations and would put on the radio. And it was the same music that he owned. Yeah. But I think my dad liked the variety of it. I think my dad liked the shuffle kind of thing that you get on the radio. So it was kind of it was road trips where we would listen to cassettes or CDs, where he would let me control and pick what I wanted to listen to from his collection. Or when we were very young, I think he listened to stuff. But my dad was just a big radio guy. So, except with Christmas music, he owned about a gajillion Christmas tapes and then a gajillion Christmas CDs.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Are we going to see that reflected today? I don't know, spoiler alert.
Yeah. I can confidently say we had 2 Christmas episodes. I'm good. I'm good until next year. I did send Donnie, I don't know if he remembers, I sent him either a video or a photo of my dad's Christmas CD collection. It was only like half, it was only like half of them too. And it was just like layers on the shelf, like 2 or 3 layers deep, fully wide of just Christmas CDs.
My post-holiday burnout is gone, and now I'm starting to like want the Christmas spirit again. It took a while this year. I was still post-holiday burned out through like the beginning of February, where now it's like I started thinking about Christmas, and I'm like, I want Christmas back.
I'm not there yet.
January 18th, I was like, I'm good.
I need warmth. I need some heat in my life first.
Yeah.
You've got that Smiths / Twin Peaks shirt on.
I do.
I was just in Manchester.
Oh, nice.
Smiths. Morrissey shit everywhere, dude. Yeah, I can confidently say that they love their Manchester-based bands there. I saw the pictures of the Gallagher brothers everywhere, and the Smiths, mostly Morrissey, all over the place. Like, you could buy sticker packs of the Smiths at like every little side store. I don't know where I'm going with that. You wore that shirt on the perfect day because I still have Manchester on the mind a little bit.
That's awesome. I was talking with a friend last night. Our family movie last night was Sister Act, and I got a text from a friend. I got a text from a friend who was wrapping up season 1 of Twin Peaks, and this came in sort of simultaneously, and I was like, this is a funny moment because these might be the only 2 pieces of media ever created where like young rebellious teens in the 90s, for whatever reason, are drawn in by 50s doo-wop music. There's like this scene where they're singing some girl group song in the church, and these like kids out on the street, these toughs out on the street are like, what's that sound? Let's go into this church. Let's become people of God through this 50s doo-wop music.
So and I was like, doo-wop?
Yeah, I thought this was unique to the Twin Peaks universe, but this happens in Sister Act.
In Sister Act also, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Although in Twin Peaks, it's all very haunting too. But
totally. There's like a whole motorcycle gang culture to it. Yeah.
Read the rules.
I'll do a fast rules reading. Number 1, killer opening track. Number 2, songs flowing smoothly into each other. Number 3, good balance of genres, tempos, and moods. Number 4, we're telling the story of our dad's cars here and our musical upbringing. 5, can't be too obvious, but can't be too obscure unless that's the theme. You can't double up on songs by the same artist, and you gotta close with something that leaves them wanting more. There you go. That's the fastest I've done it yet, Don.
Yeah, that was
timing me on this going forward.
He was propelling you forward with his reactions too, going,
I could kind of hear. I couldn't see because I was reading, but I appreciate that, Don.
Yeah.
Shane, you want to go first, second, or third?
I'm adding songs to my honorable mentions right now.
I'll go.
Actually, some of this might make its way. Keep going.
I'll go third.
Ooh. All right, so I'm first. So it's me, Don.
Oh, okay, let me get a fresh Post-it pad here.
Me, Don, Shane.
Oh, Don, Shane.
Cool.
Roderick, your first choice.
I'm kind of just going in. I guess order only matters if I'm thinking about steals here. So let me think.
We're not stealing shit. Nobody's stealing shit.
Yeah, probably not. I probably don't have to worry about it. Then I'll go in order of the stuff I think I heard the most.
Okay. Well, do the least and then build up to track 4. Make it and then give us the fireworks. Do your
the
thing.
Least first? Yeah. Okay, I'll do that.
Do your reactions.
Okay. Well, this is for the listeners. Do
your reactions. There you go.
There we go.
Boing.
Okay. I remember my dad listening to this, but the least. But what I do remember is I remember holding this cassette the most. Like, this is the physical object cassette that I remember looking at the most. And when I tell you who it is, you'll know why, because that all has to do with the album cover and the packaging. But the artist is going to be Meatloaf, and the song is going to be Paradise by the Dashboard Light.
Great song and great album artwork.
So my dad is a musicals guy. He's a musical theater guy. So listening to rock opera makes sense. You know, he was a Queen fan as well. I don't remember him getting crazy into Meatloaf, but he would sing along with it when it was on, and he owned both Bat Out of Hell and
Bat Out of Hell 2
Back into Hell. And so, you know, he had this cassette and obviously enjoyed it. I remember asking to listen to it because I thought it was going to. My memory is I asked to listen to it because it looked edgy and scary. And
did you want to be a little bit of a bad boy, Rob?
I think I did, or at least I wanted to toy with it in the comfort of my own home with my parents there. But then you put this on, and it's not that at all. It's bad boy cosplay, teenage angst,
bad boy
rock
cosplay.
opera.
It's just like the Twin Peaks thing. Like, it's real safe, but you're wearing leather.
He's wearing a leather jacket in like photos and stuff, but it's basically doo-wop meets Elvis style rock and roll meets opera and storytelling, and just we're gonna go park out here, and I'm the biggest strife in life is if it's okay to go to third base or not, or are we going to go we might go all the way tonight. Like it's so just like building this thing up on a pedestal. It's just teenage angst music, but for musical theater people. Yeah. And all that, I mean, it's a compliment. I think you guys know that too. Like, it's fantastic. It's weird. It's kind of weird that this got as big as it did. I always think that when I listen to Meatloaf, not because the songs are bad. They're not. They're fantastic. But the world in which these albums become like platinum selling albums doesn't feel like today's world at all. It feels like it only happens in a world where you don't, not to be a dick, but where you don't know what Meatloaf looks like, and you don't know if this is a real band or not, because they weren't a real band. It was some other guy wrote this stuff and found a guy to perform it, right?
Jim Steinman.
Jim Steinman.
So
it's interesting too. Like, I became a huge fan of Jim Steinman, like in my deepest punk rock phase. Like, ironically, hey, I'm gonna listen to Bonnie Tyler or Air Supply or Meatloaf and all of this stuff, but those songs are killer. And there's something that's unapologetically over the top about the way that he constructs these mini rock operas that just will last forever. It's a great one.
Yeah. I don't remember the first Meatloaf album as much as I do remember Back Into Hell. I don't remember Bat Out of Hell as much as I remember Back Into Hell. But I mean, that's probably like my dad wasn't listening to much Meatloaf. And then I remember the single I Would Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That just being massive.
I mean, that's the biggest song, which is off the second one. But the other big songs are all off that first one. So Paradise by the Dashboard Light, Bat Out of Hell, 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad. Those are all off of Bat Out of Hell. Yeah. So I think it had the bigger impact and hits, but then he had at least one massive hit on the second one, which kept him obviously huge. So yeah, I don't know. Did they come out consecutively, or was there something in the middle?
I don't think there's anything in the middle.
Was in the middle.
Yeah, the 1980s.
Yeah, so there were multiple things. Dead Ringer,
the 1980s,
Midnight at the Lost and Found.
Perfectly delivered, Shane.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because Back Into Hell came out in 93.
Yeah.
Which is wild to think about, that came out in 93.
Did you guys all have a dad's friend that looked a little bit like Meatloaf?
Yeah, kind of. I think so.
It was like a dad's friend that kind of gave off a little Meatloaf vibes, and he was probably way into Kiss.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Another one of those bands that doesn't sound like their look at all. Like Destroyer, maybe one of the probably top 5 album covers of all time, in my opinion. But you think they're going to be like a death metal band, and it's not at all. Like, they're singing Beth, which Beth is and it's not on that album. I know that, but I went fully soft.
I get it.
But they're a great fucking song, but man, it has nothing to do with what they look like.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is just props to Meatloaf's, just in general, as like not just a singer, but like he leans into the theater of it all, right? I mean, Rocky Horror Picture Show. He's one of my favorites in that. Like, I love his character in that. Just, again, it needed the songs to be big, but it also kind of needed Meatloaf's voice and the way he sings and his attitude about the whole thing and taking it seriously. There we go.
Yeah.
Pick number 1.
All right. I'm going to do Hometown Pride. This was one of those ones that I remember specifically from the greatest hits, and it's a band called the Buckinghams. You guys familiar with the Buckinghams? The Buckinghams were a Midwestern thing, Shane, so I'm not surprised that they didn't really stumble across in your direction. They were from Chicago. They were probably the equivalent of Local H in the 60s and 70s, where like they were really big in Chicago and they made it out there a little bit. And so the song is called Kind of a Drag.
Kind of a drag when your baby says goodbye. Kind of a drag when you feel like you wanna cry. Oh, girl, even though you made me feel blue, I still love you.
It is kind of this weird transition out of the Beatles and into like a little bit more gritty, less produced, less finished pop music. And like they kind of go through this weird psychedelic music phase. If you listen to some of their songs, they have like these weird breakdowns at the end. So like end of the Beatles, beginning of the Buckinghams made a lot of sense. And this was just a fucking Longton household family staple. Like right now, me and my sister will sing the songs in order from the greatest hits exclusively. Every word, the cassette was in rotation heavily. And they're just a good pop psychedelic rock band from late 60s, early 70s and from Chicago. So I'm sure they played like all of the local area festivals, you know, the carnival type fests that came through Chicago. So I'm sure that's where my dad started listening to them. But they're pretty badass. Like they're pretty friggin' good for what they are.
Horn section too. So that's another kind of layer on the sound. But yeah, it is. I know this song, Mercy, Mercy, Mercy.
Oh yeah.
I know that song. I don't know King of a Drag.
Kind of a Drag.
I wonder if my dad had this, because this album cover looks really familiar. And I mean, Indiana, my dad went to school in Michigan. He easily could have come across this stuff.
Yeah. Your dad definitely spent some time with the Buckinghams.
I think he did.
I hope that
you nailed the sound though. That's exactly what they sound like coming out of the Beatles, but still a little bit of that Beatles stuff, but then they got horns too.
Yeah. A little less finish than the Beatles. Like they're like almost like a kind of a grungy coming out of the Beatles type thing and a little bit leaning more into the psychedelic stuff, but they're friggin' rad. They're really good. They're playing in DeKalb.
Of course they are.
on May 18th.
I was going to say, before you said they're playing in DeKalb on May 18th, I was like, there's a little bit of a John Candy and Home Alone. Like you ever heard of it? We're, big in Sheboygan. Kind of vibes.
Yeah, sold 1,000 of those. Fairly big hit for us. Yeah.
I've never heard of this. I'm excited to check it out. Polka, polka, polka.
But yeah,
I like a local band pick. That's fantastic.
Yeah, local band pick.
That's good.
Pride of Chicago. I mean, they like Kind of a Drag's got 6 million listens. So
it's not small. Yeah.
They're still averaging 65,000 monthly listeners, which is pretty bananas.
I like the local H comparison though, because again, I know they had that really big nationwide hit, but being from Indiana, they would play in Indy all the time. And I was a big local H fan, being like a Midwest guy. So like I thought they were bigger than they were.
There's 2 people in that band, right?
Yep.
Local H. Quick sidebar. Local H, the singer of Local H and the singer of Smoking Popes just put out a new song like a couple of days ago.
Wow.
That tackles a lot of like current state of politics. And it's called Allegiance. Throw it on in the background. It's pretty friggin' gnarly. Like coming from those 2 dudes.
Pledge allegiance to love.
Even though the singer of Local H is like a well-known jerk.
Yep, he is.
Yeah, but give it a whirl.
All right.
Yeah, it's my first pick. Seamus, over to you.
Okay, I'm gonna start at the heart and work out.
Please be a heart song. Please be a heart song. Please be a heart song.
No, I'm not choosing a Seattle band.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with That's the Way That the World Goes Round by John Prine.
I was crying ice cubes, hoping I'd croak when the sun come through the window. The ice all broke. I stood up and laughed, thought it was a joke. It's the way that the world goes round. That's the way that the world goes round. You up one day, the next you're down. It's a half an inch of water, you think you're gonna drown. That's the way that the world goes round.
Off the live record from 1988. that's another thing. As I worked through this, I found myself going to live records a lot, and I didn't realize that before I started going through songs. It was the live record that we had on tape in the truck, and there's the cartoon cover of him with the guitar and all the cartoon body, sort of a Keith Haring looking thing. And I could make an argument that John Prine was the greatest American songwriter, and just summarizes my dad's take on music and the craft of music, which is there's a poetry to it of intelligence dressed up as pre-K humor. There is a sweetness and just a humanity and an empathy to the songs. And this particular live version of this song has one of the most charming stories ever. I won't spoil it. We'll wait till the mixtape plays back, but it's just an incredible live moment from an incredible storyteller. My dad passed away in 1999, so 26 years ago. And when John Prine died in 2020, it was like I lost my dad again. And I didn't anticipate that, but the night he died, I was in this room actually and broke down in tears, like I had lost my dad again. And I didn't think about that connection and what that meant and how often that music was on until that night. But it's something that's so personal and so connected to me. So that's the way that the world goes round by John Prine live.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's really great.
I didn't become familiar with John Prine's music until much later in life. And I think a lot of people are that way too. It's like unless you were in the know, you didn't know. But he's one of those, like, your favorite songwriter's favorite songwriter. Yeah, like the Tom Petty's and the Bob Dylans and the Johnny Cash's of the world.
Yep.
They were listening to John Prine to learn how to write songs.
Totally. Totally. And I think even today, people like Jason Isbell, like, this is who I listen to.
Sturgill Simpson and Billy Strings, and these guys are like covering John Prine songs.
Yep. And I think there's something that is just, like I said, it's universal humanity, and just there's something that's so simple but drills into something that is really intimate.
Well, that's lovely.
Yeah, that's really good. I love live albums. Live albums. Yeah. So to hear that, like, you had live albums pretty early on, Shane, that's pretty rad.
I didn't even think about it as a live album thing, but apparently they were everywhere for me. Like, I've never been a huge live album guy because I'm a shuffle guy, and I want to put stuff on a mix that has sort of a similar sonic quality. But there's some really good ones, and I kept coming back to them here in this project.
I'm not a live album guy. I'm only a live album guy or a live song guy if I feel like the liveness adds a new layer or something different, or makes me hear a song in a different way, but a lot of them do. There's a lot of good ones that do. There's entire albums that do that. And then there's entire live albums that I'm like, this is pointless. This is just another way to sell a record because I'm just hearing the same songs over and over with some crowd noise on it. But this sounds like you can almost feel like you're in a coffee shop or a small club listening to this. It sounds personal. You can almost hear the clinks of like dishes and things there, which gives it like a crazy intimacy level, which is definitely adding something for me, for sure.
I love that. Roderick, back over to you, buddy.
All right, very different direction here.
What was Papa Deer listening to?
Yeah, well, so I did double check my work a little bit with my mom, because I didn't want I should have just asked my dad, but I almost didn't want him to know that I was going to be talking about him on this episode, so we can just listen to it. But I was like, Mom, what would Dad say is 4 most listened to like bands or artists are? I just want to confirm. And I will say I did nail it, so that's good.
You did nail it?
I did. This one felt like a stretch to me, but then I was confirmed by my mom. So it's Billy Joel.
Oh, I love that.
Now, I think the song that most represents my dad is not the one I'm going to put on the mixtape, but that's more for the mixtape rules and trying to make sure there's a mix here. So, but I will call it out. My dad would love to drum along to and sing along to It's Still Rock and Roll to Me. Like just straight up the middle, throwback rock and roll stuff. But I'm picking She's Always a Woman to Me.
And she'll promise you more than the Garden of Eden. Then she'll carelessly cut you and laugh while you're bleeding. but you'll bring out the best and the worst you can be. Blame it all on yourself, 'cause she's always a woman to me.
Ooh.
I do know my dad loved the Billy Joel like ballad piano stuff a lot. My dad was just a car singer. He sang along with everything, and he had a way better voice than me. So he's the one that made me think I could sing without knowing that I can't, because I can't hold a tune. But my dad could, and he would always harmonize singing in the car. So I would always kind of have a different vibe for these types of songs, because I almost got like a duet kind of not a duet, but like he'd be harmonizing along with Billy on this kind of stuff. He had his preferences, but he definitely wasn't one dimensional, and he enjoyed a nice piano ballad a lot. And I think this represents that. I mean, I think at the core, my dad just liked anything that felt like old rock and roll that wasn't old rock and roll. It's like, this is a callback to old rock and roll, but then also just really appreciated musicianship. I think you'll see that in my other picks too, is like, he was a musician. He played multiple instruments, and anything that like displayed like high level musicianship, he was all about it. And so like Billy Joel's pretty proficient, highly proficient piano player and singer. So I don't know if my dad ever saw him live, which would have been an interesting thing. I don't think he did. Maybe he did. I never got to see Billy Joel live though. I'd love to go to Madison Square Garden, see Billy Joel.
Is he still doing it? I was going to say that. We talked about that not that long ago, that I watched that on a plane, which was a great watch. Yeah. Is he still doing his residency there?
I don't know. I don't know that he's doing the residency thing, but I think he is still playing live, but I could be wrong. I think I read that he ended that residency though.
Yeah, I thought he did the like big finale, like I'm not doing shows anymore.
I know he did something for the 100th show.
Right. Okay.
But I don't know if he ended it after that. Billy Joel is such an interesting one, because dude's first album came out in 1971 and is still doing a residency, not at like some fucking Bush League club in Vegas. He's selling out Madison Square Garden 100 times in a row. Like, is there somebody else that still has that staying power?
There are. We talked about Cher in the intro. We talked about, like, there's these people that I think it's two things. You can do that if one, you have a catalog of hits that's big enough to keep drawing people in and they can sing along to it, and they just want to hear you do it. And then two, you have to be a great fucking performer. Like, you just have to be so great to watch live that it draws people in, even if you're way old and haven't had a hit maybe in years. That doesn't matter, because I've got this catalog, and you're going to want to see me do this sometime.
Yeah, and Billy Joel is an extreme example of that, like where he has a volume 3 to his greatest hits that has plenty of hits on it. And he has eras of music that people are connected to, which brings up two things for me. One is that incredible joke. Is it Step Brothers? Where there's the band that does doo-wop Joel. Yeah, that's an incredible joke. But that he has the other thing he has is an identity that's connected to a place. And so I don't think Billy Joel could sell out an arena in Los Angeles 100 nights in a row. But there is a place where he can. And I think that's really valuable and really distinct. Yeah,
there's a New Yorkness at his core.
Right.
That makes sense that he could sell that out. I mean, what was his I'm trying to see what his last hit was. So River
probably
of
the
Dreams
River Dreams
in 93.
93.
Yeah.
Is the last one I can. I mean, he put out an album in 2005. That probably didn't.
He did it. He went and he was like, I'm going to do show tune stuff, and I'm going to write.
That's right.
Broadway stuff for a while, and then I'm going to. Then
there was also there's that Broadway musical that just used his songs, which keeps him like there have been things that just kept him relevant over the years too. So that probably helps, Don, to your point.
Yeah.
Like new generations of people discovering his music in different ways.
Yeah. Fall Out Boy.
Yeah. There you go.
Great call.
Good one.
Great choice.
Old Billy J.
Fantastic. I just, now that you mentioned it with the Buckinghams for my first pick, Rod, I'm realizing that I guess my dad liked a little horn-centric music, and I didn't realize it. And do you think that this is where my ska roots are planted?
Quite possibly.
It's because my dad listened to so much music with horns.
Potentially, yeah.
Because my next choice is going to be the song Spinning Wheel by Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Someone is waiting just for you. Spinning wheel, spinning true. three-legged pony on the spinning wheel ride.
Oh, yeah. Great one.
And as we are getting ready for this, there were originally 8 members in Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Okay, so you got to assume your front 4 and then a 4-piece horn section. Now there's currently 12 members in Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Okay. At one point in time, they transitioned from 8 members to 9 members. What do you think? And also the 9 that are the 12 that are currently performing, no original members. There is not a single original member of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. How many past members of the band Blood, Sweat, and Tears have there been? And it's going to go deeper than this. 35.
Are you counting like Killer Bee affiliates, like Capadonna and stuff, or is this just like you got to?
So this is just Wikipedia, other artists that have played as members of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Roderick says 35. Shane, you want to throw something out there?
I'll go under. I'll go 28.
156.
Jesus Christ.
There have been 156 different members of Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
So they're not a band. They're like a musical collective.
It gets deeper. One of which, going back to the best bass lines, talking about Rob Harvilla again, was Jaco Pastorius for a while.
Yeah.
Jaco Pastorius played bass for them for a while. And the keyboard player currently and since the 70s, who left and came back, is the fucking keyboard player of Ween.
What?
Yes. The keyboard player of Blood, Sweat, and Tears is now the keyboard player of Ween and has helped write most of Ween's music.
Unreal.
He does Spinning Wheel as his day job, and at night he plays Spinal Meningitis Has Got Me Down.
Or Bananas and Blow. And here's the thing is that I couldn't imagine sitting down and listening to Blood, Sweat, and Tears with my dad and then being like, hey, man, you ever heard of the band Ween? Let's start a Ween album, Dad. And making my dad sit down and listen to a Ween album. But I can't believe as I got into this how long this has been going on with the band Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And they're fucking awesome. You know, they're great. You know, I think they would be they'd fall into like that Blue-Eyed Soul type genre.
Is that that late 60s, like white guy psychedelic roots doing blues and soul music, which I love.
Yeah, for sure. So it's so fucking good. But like, again, Blood, Sweat, and Tears greatest hits. I can vividly picture the greatest hits album cover.
Same. And
no, sure as shit, like this cassette was going to make its way in if we were in Dad's Chevy Blazer.
I have the record of this in my collection from my dad. Like I can picture this is the wood. It's the wood block cover, right?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. A great song too. Just this is a killer song.
Track.
Yeah, great track. Fucking song. It takes a weird turn at the end of the song, but like everything.
I love that in a song, man. And the more horns there are, the more likely you are to have a separate movement in a pop song. You know what I mean? Like we're just going to take a turn, or we're going to intro a song with a 1 minute long intro that has nothing to do with the rest of the song. That kind of a thing.
So again, like I just like this is summertime Chicago music for little fat Donnie riding around in Dad's Chevy Blazer for sure. Riding home from football practice. And I love that this greatest hits came out in 72. What were you going to ask, Rod?
Who was the original singer? Like, was he in other stuff too? He looks so familiar. Do I just know him from Blood, Sweat, and Tears? Because that doesn't seem... They didn't have that many, like, big hits.
No, their big hits to members ratio is the lowest in history.
Not a lot of...
It's got to be.
Yeah, hits to members. Yeah, for sure. David Clayton Thomas was his name. Oh, also another singer for Blood, Sweat, and Tears for a while. You might know him from his American Idol debut. Bo Bice was the singer for Blood, Sweat, and Tears for a while, obviously.
Wow. Okay. Did not know that. Their second biggest hit on here, and probably other songs, but You've Made Me So Very Happy was written and composed by Berry Gordy. To bring it back to our last episode, Don.
Little Motown. Yeah.
That's great. But all
right.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears making their way. Yeah.
All right, Shane.
All right. We're going to go choice number 2, connected to the live album experience, but not from the live album. We're going to go with the opening track from Paul Simon's Rhythm of the Saints record, The Obvious Child.
Had a lot of fun, had a lot of money.
the drums on this record, the machine gun snare, like I was just listening to this track over and over and over again, like a snare like nowhere else in recorded music. It's like it's almost like here in your bedroom. Like there's this.
Oh, it almost does sound like that.
Snare drum from, like, it's so tight.
Almost sounds like Lars's drums on
yes, on that Blown Out record. Yeah,
on, Saint Anger.
Yes, there it is. If I'm choosing my favorite version, it's the version off the Live in Central Park record. He opens that set, that double disc album, Live in Central Park, with The Obvious Child, and you get the extra drum solo, drum fill part on the live record. But that was a home album. The Rhythm of the Saints was in the car. We had the tape of Graceland in the car too, but Graceland went to me, and it became associated with my yellow sports Walkman more than my dad's car.
Call.
Rhythm of the Saints was firmly in the car, and this is such a killer opening track. This was Rhythm of the Saints wasn't the record that Graceland was, like top to bottom, but it had a couple moments on it, and this is one of them. It's just such a great opener.
This is the era of Paul Simon that I feel like Vampire Weekend listens to a lot, like a lot, or at least whoever writes songs for Vampire Weekend does.
That's really funny.
This song is kind of like a little bit like the Tusk moment, where it feels like it's probably not recorded with.
Yes.
It probably doesn't have the gimmick of actually having a marching band in it, but it has that marching band drum line thing in it.
It does. It does. And Tusk is a funny comparison too, because that record was sort of shit on when it came out because it wasn't Rumors, and it was like we got huge on this thing. We brought this like South African rhythmic music and made it and popularized it in America, combined it with singer-songwriter stuff. Can we do that again? And this record falls a little flat in that sense.
Maybe I'm getting a little corny here though, but this being the opening track on this album and it being a cassette, you get the audible sound of opening up a plastic case, squeaky click, 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 inserting a plastic cassette into a plastic cassette player, click, 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 button push into that snare sound and drums.
Yep.
That's a lot of percussive audio sensations happening all at once in the car.
Yeah.
A fan of that.
I was thinking about this, and it was like, I'm already sequencing my tape based on what I know. And I was like, I can't imagine opening with anything other than this unless one of you guys chooses Welcome to the Jungle. But
I wish my dad was that cool.
This is it.
Well, I definitely haven't provided any openers yet. I might next. We'll see. But this would be a great opener.
Very confident.
This would be a great opener, though.
Check out the big brain on Brad. Yeah.
All right. Well, you can pull a Leonore and sequence it as though it's a side A and a side B of a cassette tape. And so
that's good.
Number 7 is actually number 1 of side B. But I'm going to kind of your homeland, Don. Yeah. And this, again, I'm going to kind of in reverse order of my dad's favorites at this point. And
Dad's favorite's going to be number 4. Did you say it's Chicago?
Yeah, it's Chicago, and it's 25 or 6-4. Ooh. I could pick about any Chicago song.
Not a direct steal, but a steal for sure.
A steal. I mean, my dad just absolutely obsessed with Chicago. I own far too many Chicago albums. I own many of them in duplicate because he somehow had duplicates, because he also bought the greatest hits and then the box sets of the albums he already owned. He had a bunch of cassettes. I just visually remember that first greatest hits, Chicago greatest hits, with the painting of them painting, or the photo of them painting Chicago and falling off the whatever it is. And again, my dad was a trumpet player and a drummer, so anything with horns he loved, but he just loves guitar music. And this has all of it. This has the horn stuff, but it has Terry Kath's, has his that amazing guitar,
that tone,
riff, and solo. And that crazy drum part that the like almost like the double kick thing in there really quick. Song just feels so fucking cool.
It's big.
Just such a cool song. I don't know what else to say about it. It's one of my all-time favorite songs, and a lot of that's because my dad listened to so much Chicago. I just love Chicago. Still holds a really big place in my heart. I could have picked like 8 other songs of Chicago that would have been on there. My dad would listen to 80s Chicago, but my dad was a 60s, 70s Chicago guy. Like, if you look on Spotify, their biggest songs are all their 80s ones because they turned into pop stars in the 80s.
Yeah,
Peter
for sure. Peter Cetera got involved.
And those songs are gorgeous and everything, but that's not what Chicago is to me. Chicago wasn't a pop band. Chicago was almost like a psychedelic rock band, almost like the Buckinghams a little bit. Not the Beatles side, though. They were Jimi Hendrix meets jazz. Like, they were Jimi Hendrix meets big band. You know what I mean? I don't think people think of them that way.
My song was going to be Does Anybody Really Know What Time It Is? That was my Chicago song.
That was the other one I was debating between.
Yeah, that was my Chicago song.
Yeah, that's off Chicago 1, right? That's off of Chicago Transit Authority. Yeah. So is this, isn't it?
Yeah, these were like their first 2 breakout hits.
I don't know. I could keep talking about Chicago, and my dad's connected to Chicago. I saw Chicago twice with him. Well, whatever version they were touring with at the time, like 2 or 3 original members.
Good call. It's a great call. It's like, it's funny because is Chicago our dad's dad rock, whereas like Creed and Nickelback is technically dad rock now?
I could see that. That hurts me in the heart to hear that because I love them so much. But if I'm being objective, it might be because like they only got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame after an intense multi-year campaign to their fans, and the fan vote finally got them in when only after the Hall of Fame added that as an option where fans could pick one band a year is like a fan vote thing. And they did not shy away from campaigning for themselves to be in it, which is pretty cringy.
Fuck that
dad rock behavior. But I don't care. I love their fucking music. So
yeah. All right, so that was a direct steal of mine. I'm on my 3rd choice. So that means I'm pulling something from the honorable mentions, and I love all 3 of my honorable mentions. So this is tough to say, and I think I'm going to do Bob Seger, Night Moves.
Working on a night moves, trying to make some front page driving news. Working on a night moves. In the summertime.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, like I could picture. Did your parents have a lot of friends that were not relatives, but you call them your aunt and uncle? Like my parents had a ton of friends that were like, my Uncle George was not my blood uncle, but he was like my dad's high school friend, so he was my Uncle George, right? And that was just what you always called Uncle George.
Yep.
And like I can so vividly remember, like they lived in another Chicago suburb, like driving it. Like this song speaks so much to like driving to Uncle George's house to like for dad to hang out with Uncle George, listening to Bob Seger. And it had to be Night Moves, right? Like it couldn't have been any other Bob Seger song. But yeah,
it's got some other bangers, but yeah, it probably has to be Night Moves.
It's the best. It's his best song
for sure. And I again, like, I just remember like this being the music, like I was getting a glimpse into their like late teens, early 20s, spending time with dad and Uncle George, listening to Bob Seger, which was their jam, so it was cool to like now reflecting as an adult back on those moments to say, this is that moment for them. It feels good to have been a part of that, of like, old dudes reliving the glory days. Like, I guess kind of what is that what this podcast is? Are we fucking old dudes?
100%. That's absolutely what this is.
Shit,
did you not already know that? Like,
no, man.
It's 90% that and like 10% like musical analysis and cultural commentary, but it's like 90% just
let's sit around remembering some stuff.
Yeah,
we're only a couple years away from senior coffees at the McDonald's at 5:30, aren't we?
Sure.
Or
the Hardee's.
I'm having my coffee right now.
The Hardee's, yeah.
Shit. Don, I think my dad and your dad could have been musical friends at least. I don't know enough about their personalities, but they could have been at the same party and easily clicked that they liked the same music and started talking music all night. They could have been Shane and I, that party, me, you, and Chris standing on the side of a party, not hanging out with anybody, just talking about what is grunge and is this band grunge or is this band grunge and how do you define it? Like that would have been my dad and your dad, Don, at like some kind of cocktail party in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Roderick's dad is Uncle somebody in Don's family.
What is your dad's name, Rod?
Tim. Uncle Tim.
It's Uncle Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uncle Tim, Uncle George, and my old man would stand around and listen to Bob Seger for sure.
Absolutely. And Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Yeah.
And the Buckinghams. I mean, all of them. Yeah.
Chicago. Yeah. I mean, 25 and 64 is like the most Blood, Sweat, and Tears adjacent song I can even think of that isn't Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
That isn't Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Yeah.
I love that. Can you believe that he was an honorable mention? It's only because you took Chicago that I put Bob Seger on there.
Hey, look, we both grew up listening to our dads listen to this kind of era. There's so many bands we could pick. Like I could have done honorable mentions for days.
Yeah, my list of honorable mentions is long and distinguished.
You could take Bob Seger's look from this era though and stick him on a Pantera or Metallica album cover from the 80s or Motorhead and not bat an eye. Like that dude looked, which I guess Detroit, probably did have a motorcycle and just.
I'll tell you right now, Bob Seger and Uncle George, they got a little. You would see Uncle George at a Bob Seger concert for sure.
Would you?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, Bob Seger looks like he's in Motorhead, not singing Night Moves. And for whatever that's worth, like, I mean, Night Moves is killer, but.
And let me tell you, Uncle George would have been well served. He would have partaken in the whole experience.
Yeah. Uncle Tim wouldn't have, but
no,
I don't think so.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah. Uncle Tim still likes to party. Who's up? Seamus?
All right,
Seamus.
It's me. I'm gonna go back into the American songwriter storyteller bag for my dad, and I'm going Randy Newman, Sail Away.
Sail away, sail away. We will cross the mighty ocean into Charleston Bay. Sail away, sail away. We will cross the mighty ocean into Charleston Bay.
There's a gift in writing so clever and sardonic that your subject celebrates your work, not understanding that you're making fun of them. Randy Newman's ability to do this over and over again, like Short People from Rednecks, like all the way to I Love LA, like I'm just making fun of Los Angeles, and they're going to play this song at Laker and Dodger games, and everybody's going to sing along to it. This is some of my favorite writing ever. This song's brutal. The story, a slaver selling West Africans on getting on the boat because of how great it is in America is so gnarly. But to sing it so sweet that you could just hear it and go, yeah, I can't wait to get to the Charleston Bay. Like, this is beautiful. I'm going to South Carolina. There's something so got multi-level execution of great songs in the like traditional American songbook. Like, this is like ragtime stuff. I'm into old piano ballads, but these are like brutal if you listen to the lyrics. Is there another artist you guys can think of that like had a second career or is perceived so differently because of their second career than someone like Randy Newman? Like his plays, like what's popular from his songbook it's just Toy Story.
It's just Toy Story. Music. Yeah.
I mean, there are others, but they didn't take as big of a turn. Like in the same vein, you have the Phil Collins piece, who just had a bunch of big Disney songs, but he didn't really change anything. He just wrote pop songs for music. The only person that comes in mind right away is Trent Reznor.
Elton John, maybe
Elton John.
Trent Reznor's a really good one. Like I do this Oscar-winning scores.
Trent Reznor's doing like scores and things now, right? Yeah. Like he's completely changed. I think the difference between the two is I think Trent's biggest stuff is always going to be his Nine Inch Nails stuff, and Randy's biggest stuff is the other part. Randy's biggest stuff is the Pixar stuff or the Disney stuff.
I was on the fence between Sail Away and Burn On, which is the song about about the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland catching fire. Mm-hmm. And that chorus of Cleveland, City of Light, City of Magic, like that's just so perfect, Randy Newman, and the exact sort of thing that my dad would love.
Is it because of the opening of Major League and how good that opening of Major League is?
He did love Major League too.
Yeah, that's good.
So, yeah, he was a big baseball movie guy.
Yeah.
Man, maybe I should have, but Sail Away it's the first track great on that record too, and it works on multiple levels.
I always felt like he was one of those guys who, in no way, his voice matches what he looks like. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, and part of it is he has just such a unique voice. Nobody sounds or sings like Randy Newman. Like it's very unique, but then you look at, especially like actually I'm looking at a more modern photo of him now. I'm like, how's that voice come out of that man?
Yeah.
Like, how is that how he sounds? That's not a qualitative thing. That's just, I've always been interested in when people's voice doesn't seem to match the rest of their physicalness.
You guys had a conversation on an episode a few episodes ago about people that you were surprised when you saw them.
Yeah, I don't remember what that would have been, but
I was listening to it and I was jumping out of my shoes because the fucking dude from Blessed Union of Souls is black, and that just doesn't make any sense. She likes me for me, but there's no way that it's a black guy. That guy. Block Party. When I saw Block Party on SNL, and part of this is my own thing, I was like, in the British accent, I was like, wait, what?
Well, there's that like indie rock thing. There's like Block Party TV on the radio too. Yeah, totally, and Hootie and the Blowfish. It's like same with the other way around. Like I see these reaction TikToks about like black people finding out that certain people are white that they just assumed were black, like because they'd never seen them for some reason. They just assumed Adele was black. American or whatever. It's like, no, she's like a Cockney. She's like a white Cockney chick.
Voice, right?
Yeah.
Joe Cocker was that way for me. And the other big one for me was Tom Waits. Like when I first saw what Tom Waits looked like, that one surprised me.
Really? I feel like he matches, but you probably just had a picture in your mind.
Yeah. It's the gravelly voice. It's the blues of it. I don't know.
The graveliest voice of all time. Speaking voice too. Like watch an interview with him and I'm like, man, you just, it's all torn up in there, isn't it? Like, I know that's not how it works, but I just imagine his whole like esophageal region is just like sandpaper in there, and it just hurts all the time.
He never got that Blake Schwarzenbach pre-Dear You throat surgery.
He didn't get the throat surgery. He didn't get the therapy. He doesn't drink the aloe juice or the hot honey and tea.
He never went through a Jets to Brazil phase either.
Your last pick. Here's your last one, Roderick.
Yeah, this is
your grand slam. This is the thing that Dad loved the most.
I feel like both of you know the band I'm about to pick. You guys know me enough to know, but so let me give you an opportunity.
Is it fucking Beck?
No, it's my dad. It's my dad's favorite band, Beck. No,
it's probably Beck. Turns out Tim's a big Beck fan. What?
Turns out my dad absolutely loved Midnight Vultures. No, Eagles. My dad was obsessed with Eagles. I mean, this is not true, but it feels like 90% of my childhood was soundtracked by them. I think I'm going to pick Lion Eyes because I can hear my dad singing to it again in the car.
You can't hide your lion eyes, and your smile is a thin disguise. I thought by now you'd realize there ain't no way to hide your lion eyes.
Those, I mean, all the Eagle stuff has a ton of harmonies to it, but it has that Southwestern. This song represents their main sound, which is that Southwestern quasi country rock thing. I think they do more than that people don't give them credit for. Like they've got their Bee Gees sound. Sometimes they've got their ballad stuff, but this is their bread and butter. And I think this is off their first record.
And it's Glenn Frey too, which I really appreciate.
And he wasn't he was probably the worst singer of the bunch. He's still a good singer, and he can harmonize like a mother. But like his lead vocal stuff, like "Take It Easy" and "Lion Eyes" and that stuff, like you hear some actual like humanness in there. Like Don Henley's too good of a singer. Yeah. Like you're not really a person almost, Don. Glenn Frey has some more personality in his voice. Yeah. And
Reno Henderson is so excited about the Eagles conversation about are the parts greater than the whole? Like do everybody's individual careers collectively, are they better than the Eagles?
If you add them all up, I still would have to say no. Like the Eagles are one of the biggest bands of all. I mean, still have the number one selling record of all time. It's a greatest hits record, but how can you? I mean, Joe Walsh had a good solo career. If you include other bands and solo career, then probably, because then you're getting into like James Gang and you're getting into Poco, because their bass player was in Poco and like all that kind of shit. But come on, no, I gotta say no on this one.
And I also love that it's just Eagles, not the Eagles.
It's Eagles. Yeah.
It's Eagles.
I like. There's that moment in the documentary where Glenn Frey and Don Henley talk about that revenue split from the reunion and about how they made so much more money than Timothy B. Schmidt and the other guys in the group. And like, I think the way I think it's Glenn Frey who says like, we're only here because me and Don kept us at the top of mind of people's, as people were thinking about music over the last decade plus. Like, that's why there's the demand. It's because of us. Which, God, what a mess of human beings those people are. But,
they're terrible. Like they're the most boomer dudes ever. In all the negative ways. They're selfish. They're money hungry. They're self-centered, like all that shit. They were
just in a streaming debate, weren't they? Weren't they just bitching about streaming like constantly?
They're in everything. This is going to get copyright struck on YouTube. Like when I post this episode on there, like they attack everything.
You should sing it.
This is all aside from that shit. Like
in place of a clip of the song, you should just record yourself singing it.
Do your own harmonies. You've talked about your singing voice. Like there's a human element to it, Roderick.
Duet this. Get Tim to record his part, and then you sing the harmonies and bring it full fucking circle.
Speaking of full circle, back to your point about greatest hits, though. Like my dad had all these records, but the tapes in the car were the greatest hits. Volume 1 and Volume 2. Both greatest hits were heavy rotation, and they were often my choices on road trips. Like if my dad gave me the option to pick the music, I'm pretty much always going Eagles growing up. Like that's how influential that was to me. I mean, I will also say there's this thing, I don't know if this is a compliment or an insult, but the Eagles storytelling and innuendo is simple enough that even a child understood it. And I didn't even understand what sex and relationships really were, but I still got what Lion Eyes was about. I still got what Life in the Fast Lane was about. And also that there was something else there that I didn't quite understand, which later was, it's the drug thing that they're talking about in this song. But I think that's why I connected with the Eagles as a kid too, is like their songwriting is pretty straightforward. It's well done and well crafted, but I got everything they were saying for the most part. Nobody gets Hotel California really, but there you go. Eagles.
Roderick's last pick.
All right, Don, you're up.
All right. This might be the most modern of all the songs. Album still came out in 1989, but I don't know that we've had any albums earlier than 1989.
Yeah, the Paul Simon album was 1990.
90.
Oh, okay.
Rhythm of the Saints. But
I don't know where this came from. I don't know why this cassette was in my dad's car, but my dad got down with Alana Miles. And for some reason, Dad loved Black Velvet.
Always wanting more.
And I don't know why. I don't know why this record of all of like the 1989 female vocalists that my dad could have gotten his hands on, Black Velvet for some reason just rang true with Big Don, and it was what he was going for. And I remember this album cover so vividly, like being in the door, the door storage. And this one was in there. For some reason, Dad and I were listening to Black Velvet by Alana Miles.
Hey, it's a fantastic song. Like, it's a great song. I thought I just had to look it up. I thought you just had your first repeat, but I think this was an honorable mention.
It was probably an honorable mention
on the Canada episode.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
I think this might have been one of Jess's honorable mentions, but dude, I don't know. Like, why do you have to make an excuse? This is for your dad. This is a great song.
I'm not making excuses. I just don't know where the hell it came from. Like, I don't know, like we collect music via social media. We collect it. Like, did Dad hear Black Velvet on the radio, like on adult contemporary radio? And Dad was like, oh, I'm going to go out and buy that cassette. And did my father walk into a record store and say, do you have Alana Miles? And they were like, yeah, let me walk you over to this cassette bay with the big giant plastic thing attached to the cassette so you don't steal it. And then my dad walked to the fucking cash register and checked out with the Alana Miles cassette.
That's how radio worked in 1990. Though. Like he didn't ask for Alana Miles, he asked for Black Velvet, and they were like, yeah, we've got it. This is a top 40 record.
I like that Rod said, I hope that's what happened. Instead, Dad held up the record store and stole Alana Miles. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know how. I don't know. But I do remember listening to Black Velvet, If You Please, for sure, in Dad's truck. And so Alana Miles is a recognizable one that stuck with me.
Maybe he just thought she was hot on the album cover, and that's why he picked it up.
That makes sense. I get it. She looks great on the album cover.
Where does this fit timeline wise to like Bonnie Raitt's hits and stuff? Because it's so similar to me stylistically. It's her like same, 90s, same era. Okay.
Same era. Yeah. She had that record that won all those Grammys right then.
Yeah. It's that bass line, that shuffle bass line, right? With the like slide guitar, the slide like steel guitar with like a crooning, not crooning, but like a diva almost vocal on there. That's that Bonnie Raitt like mathematics right there. That was like her formula for hit songs.
There's also something like there's an era of this music, like there's something really sensual about that song. Like it's about Elvis, but there's something that's really like there's a like Heart did How Do I Get You Alone, like Damn, God, I Wish I Was Your Lover. Like there's a bunch of those songs in that era that just hit this note.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it even starts to get into like Sheryl Crow territory a bit for me, like, but earlier, it's
crazy to think about what shit overlapped, right? So this came out in 1989. 2 years later, I was listening to Summertime by DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Like, to think about, like that I was in the record store 2 years later buying that cassette, and Dad was buying Alana Miles.
Yeah.
And Dad was robbing the record store for Alana Miles.
He wasn't buying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My dad was a big, like, we're moving to CDs, and like we had the car full of tapes, but it was building the collection and all the CDs. And my dad was a watercolor artist. He sold his paintings at the Pike Place Market. And so he lived on cash. And so it would be like, we're working, we're doing our thing at the market, and we're going to go over to Tower, and I just have cash in hand now. And I'm going to go to the listening booth, and I'm going to find a pile of CDs. And we'd go home with 5 or 6 CDs. And it was you probably do end up with an Alana Miles in there from there. Sort of like I heard 1 song or 2 songs, I dig this, but I think about that era. He was a collector of music and would take recommendations from other people and listen to people who would guest on a record or whatever, and go, okay, I'll go check out their stuff. The way that we did reading liner notes and thank you lists on bands, CDs, and go, okay, this is the next band I should check out. And that was he didn't steal CDs the way your dad did, but he wasn't
robbing Columbia House.
Was your dad a Linda Ronstadt fan, Don? That could be it too, because I feel like this is the progression from her 70s stuff into the 80s a bit. Not to bring the Eagles back up again.
Yeah, you get it right back to the Eagles and Jackson Brown. Yeah,
but Dad definitely listened to some Bonnie Raitt for sure.
Okay, yeah, and so she had those 70s albums too. Yeah. So that was probably it more than that. All right. Mystery solved.
I'm going to close it up.
Bonnie Raitt, into Black Velvet, into Grand Larceny or whatever.
Robbing the record store.
Yeah.
I'll keep it in the same track as Don's last one. And I'm going to open with a John Prine song. I'm going to close with a John Prine song. I'm doing Nancy Griffith, doing a cover of The Speed of the Sound of Loneliness.
So what in the world's come over you? And what in heaven's name have you done? You've broken the speed of the sound of loneliness. You're out there running just to be on the run.
Which is off of her album, Other Voices, Other Rooms. And I was going to say, I was hoping for last pick because I anticipated us getting 11 songs in without a female voice. Just 3 white guys talking about the music our dads listened to. I just anticipated this is where we would be.
Now,
so I'm stoked on Alana Miles.
We had multiple women voices in here.
And we do?
Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, a duet.
Okay. There's a woman on there, but there's also Phil Rizzuto is on there too. So
that's fair.
It cancels out. Nancy Griffith is a Texas singer-songwriter, and my dad just fell in love with her voice. There's a sweetness to her voice, and I think that there's something extremely Texas here that I connect to my dad. And I see some of this in some of the other choices too, especially Eagles. Like, there's an adjacency to country music that isn't directly country, but it's about storytelling, and whether that's Tones Van Zandt or Jerry Jeff Walker, or the closest my dad would ever get to country straight up is probably Willie Nelson, but I think it's more the Texas side of it than the country side of it. And there's something about these like Americana tales of the West and the open road and the outlaw, and and I think that there's something that she approaches as a purely Texan artist that's like, oh, I'm the other side of this story. I'm the other side of this yin yang, and I'm the sweetness and the coming home. So The Speed of the Sound of Loneliness, John Prine cover, Nancy Griffith.
We saw that happen with the Highwomen.
Yeah.
Did you listen to the Highwomen on the much?
Yeah.
Because that was such a fucking cool project.
It's a great,
we had the folk artists of the Highwaymen and like all of the singer-songwriters of the Highwaymen. And then to see like the women's side of that. And I think we talked about it with my sister when she was on about the Highwomen and like them all bringing with their stories. And it was so fucking cool.
Yeah, they all did that independently too. Before, I mean, Brandy Carlisle's a huge storyteller and like those, but yeah, the voices, the collective side of that is cool. Is this whole album covers then? Is that the other voices? Is like I'm singing other people's songs?
Yes.
Or okay, cool.
And it's funny because my other choice here, like one of Bonnie Raitt's early records, she did a cover of Angel from Montgomery, one of the great John Prine songs. And he, on his live record, she sings it and he does the backing vocals on that. But he does the backing vocals on this too.
I was going to say, there's a male vocal on here. Who's that? But,
yeah,
okay,
it's him. But just her voice is incredible.
Love it.
It's great. I love
it. I don't know Nancy Griffith, dude, so I don't have much to say other than to say that just listening to this, she has a gorgeous voice.
Yeah.
And she definitely sounds like in that same vein of women storytellers.
Yeah, she's got some great Loving the Fine the Dime, like some great old singer-songwriter stuff. And it's not country, but there's something in the spirit of Texas that it's keeps coming up.
It's Southwestern music, and maybe even specifically Texas. Like listening to like her top song on here, the first 5 seconds of it is Texan.
Yeah,
you can just tell it's Texas or Arizona, right? Like,
yep. And Linda Ronstadt's from Tucson. Like, there's definitely a through thread here.
That's the second time, for some reason, even though I brought her up earlier, for some reason, you just bring up Linda again, made me think of a cartoon for the second time this episode. So Randy Newman always makes me think of that Family Guy bit with Randy Newman that is actually really hilarious? Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I don't think so.
It's just Randy Newman following Peter around narrating, or the whole Griffin family around narrating everything they're doing. And it's after the apocalypse for some reason. And it's just like, fat guy walking down the street, stopping to look at me.
That's a great Randy Newman impression.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then there's the Linda Ronstadt cameo in the Mr. Plow episode where she writes the John Barney's theme song and then proposes a Spanish version of it because she speaks Spanish because she's from Tucson. Sorry to bring some lowbrowness to this very highbrow conversation that Shane just had.
Have you guys ever see that? My favorite band photo of all time is the Stone Ponies, which was Linda Ronstadt's group before she went solo because she was the star. But there's this incredible, their record has this great photo. And actually some of the B-roll from that photo shoot is like Linda Ronstadt and then the other two dudes that are in the group. They're like, can you guys get behind her and actually like in not just behind her, but like way behind her and like in the trees. So
I'm looking at him right now, dude. So, it was one of the shots is a cover of their album, but then these other outtake shots where they're standing even further back are like, who are these absolute creeps spying on this young woman?
Yes. They're like, we're going to hide you guys in the trees because we know who the star is here.
It's so funny.
It's incredible. It's
but it comes off as creepy.
It's creepy because they're also, they're not the most pleasant looking dudes. Sorry, other guys from the Stone Ponies.
That's fantastic.
That's really good.
Oh, little catching some crossfire here. We do honorable mention.
I've only got 2 on here because I figured we wouldn't have too many steals. But I've got Elton John. Actually, probably should have been above Billy Joel and Meatloaf on my list, but I just picked Elton John like 2 episodes ago, so I'm not going to put Elton John on here. Yeah, it's same thing as Meatloaf. Fantastic piano player, but a sense of the theatrical, right up my dad's alley there. I would have picked Honky Cat. I don't know why. That my dad loved that like Dixieland sound. Like my dad was a big like Doobie Brothers fan, like the old Doobie Brothers that had like a Dixieland vibe to it, like anything like that. So that'd be one of them. And then this one's a weird one, and this kind of represents a different side of my dad, which is he just loved hits too. So we had these compilation tapes and compilation records. And I knew of a lot of like one-hit wonders from those. And one that I remember him loving and singing along with him in the car was Signs by, I think it's 5-Man Electrical Band. I didn't even look up if that's the right band. That's how I've always just remembered who did that one. Is that who sings Signs?
No, it's Ace of Base.
Not that Signs. Different Signs.
Okay. Tesla did a cover of it.
5-Man Electrical Band. Okay. Yes.
Tesla did do a cover of that.
What's that guy's name?
Long-haired freaky people. Need not apply.
Yeah. No. Louis C.K. Louis C.K. had a great joke back in the day where he would say that song says sign said long-haired freaky people need not apply. Okay, first of all, no, it didn't. No sign has ever said that.
No sign has said that. No.
That's good.
You got to have a membership card to get inside. I always love the there, like that. Okay, where did that come from?
I love when Rod sings on the pod.
So that's the only 2 I had. Don, what do you got?
I had 2 as well. One of mine got stolen. Chicago got stolen, so I had to move Bob Seger into it. The Doobie Brothers, Blackwater.
Yep.
I absolutely love Blackwater, dude. Any song that goes into a round at some point, too.
Yeah. And then the other one is Commodores, Night Shift.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Dad loved Commodores.
I love a late Commodores song. That's you're getting into that 80s, early 80s.
Yeah. 80s Commodores.
Shimmer. Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, those were Dad's extra honorable mentions. Seamus?
Okay. Ooh, I wrote down a bunch. Okay, so if you said who are the artists that you associate with your dad the most, Tom Waits would be one, but those were all listened to at home. Springsteen would be one, but again, it's listened to at home. U2, we had Rattle and Hum in the car, and so that was like
no shit.
That was a weird one. I'm gonna go. Okay, my two honorable mentions though. Boz Scaggs' Lido Shuffle. Boz Scaggs hits with the pink suit jacket on the cover. Like that is a memory for me, is holding that cassette tape. And that would have fit right in there with the Blood, Sweat, and Tears in Chicago, sort of big band sound of it all. And then my other one, as I got into music, there were a couple songs that my dad really dug in on. And I was on the fence about including this because it felt sort of on the edge of the spirit of this conversation. But my dad loved Santa Monica by Everclear, and he loved Disarm by the Smashing Pumpkins.
Dang.
So really? I want to make sure that one gets a shout out. I was talking with my daughter this morning about doing this podcast and songs that Grandpa Dan liked, and she was like, "Oh, the Bell song," because that's Disarm.
Yeah.
He loved that.
That would have still lived on a cassette for sure, too.
I had Siamese Dream. I bought Siamese Dream and Bleach on cassette. Yeah. And so Bleach didn't hang in the car often, but Siamese Dream did. And we listened to that record.
Makes sense.
And Disarm, it was mine, but it was something that he dug.
I love that.
That's so. Now you got me wondering if there was any later or more modern stuff that crossed over. And I'm sure there was. But I can't place it right now because, again, my dad became such a radio guy that it was always just a classic rock station. It's almost like whatever started to bleed into classic rock as a radio definition.
Yeah,
the earliest. Actually, you know what it probably was? It probably started to get into Guns N' Roses. I think my dad actually probably started to dig some the better 80s metal stuff. I mean, my dad wasn't a metal guy by any means, but I mean, the closest my dad got would have been Deep Purple or Blue Oyster Cult and stuff. But I think there was enough of that there where I can imagine him still listening to that on the classic rock radio and enjoying it. But we wouldn't have had any cassettes or even CDs, I think, where my dad and I really crossed over. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Collective Soul.
There's that post-grunge sort of modern rock radio format that we've talked about a bunch, just rock music being frozen in 1993.
Yeah.
The Stone Temple Pilots of it all.
Yeah.
And do you have any of those, Don, where it's this was my music, but Dad connected to it?
The only thing that I can start to think about is Dad listened to a little Sheryl Crow, you know? So would have been what was that first Sheryl Crow album? The one that
Tuesday Music Club.
Music Club. Yeah, for sure. I can think about a little bit of that. And then, but as far as modern music, I don't know what the hell my dad would be listening to. Didn't really transition much into that. Dad stayed in his wheelhouse big time.
Yeah.
So
and here we are talking about.
And here we are talking
about 1990s music as much as possible.
Yeah, it's true.
I got one more for it. My dad loved Santeria.
Really?
Again, I think there's that Southwest. There's sort of a Spanish thing. There's the storytelling and he loved the line about I got something for his punk ass. There's this rich sort of narrative happening in the song.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fun.
Okay, I got a question for you guys.
Okay.
I was chatting with somebody last week about doing this project, and I was just like, hey, what were the songs that were in your dad's car? And he was like, Steely Dan, Can't Buy a Thrill. First Steely Dan record, of course, that makes total sense. Billy Joel, 52nd Street. And then he goes, Fat Boys, Weird Al. Yeah. And I was like, wait, how do you get from Steely Dan and Billy Joel to Fat Boys and Weird Al? And he was like, well, those two were in my mom's car. And I was like, oh, that's a different thing. That's a distinct, unique idea. It's a totally different idea. Which, will you guys have me back for songs that you played in your dad's truck to songs that were in your mom's car?
Yeah, for sure.
We will, but I'm going to have to caveat it already by saying I don't think my mom had any cassette tapes. So this is going to be stuff that I know my mom liked off the radio. We're going to have to flex it because I can already start thinking of them. My mom had some CDs. We're going to have to stretch it into CDs if that's the case.
We'll say albums.
We'll
say tracks from mom's car.
I can think of 3 right now off the top. Yeah, boom.
Okay.
So
I'm there.
All right.
100%.
I'm living in that space.
Yep. Tracks from mom's car it's a shoe in.
Yep. Fat Boys,
sweet.
Weird Al, and other hits.
I love that.
Yeah.
You want to read them off, Don?
Yeah, for sure. We have Meatloaf, Paradise by the Dashboard, Light, The Buckinghams, Kind of a Jag, John Prine, That's the Way That the World Goes Round, Billy Joel, She's Always a Woman to Me, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Spinning Wheel, Paul Simon, The Obvious Child, Chicago, 25 or 6 to 4, Bob Seger, Night Moves, Randy Newman, Sail Away, Eagles, Lion Eyes, Alana Miles, Black Velvet, and Nancy Griffith, The Speed of the Sound of Loneliness.
This is a good mix. This is going to get some play.
Yeah, this is really good. That's a good ass mixtape. That's gonna set a vibe for sure. Yeah. I love that.
It's definitely a mix of genres, tempos, and moods. Less so genres, but there's a little mix on there. But tempos and moods for sure. To quote the rules.
Yeah.
How to make a mixtape.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, Shane. This is
Seamus,
fun.
love hanging out with you, buddy. Miss the hell out of you.
Good to see you guys. I'll sequence this. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you. I was really looking forward to this one. It was very nostalgic. I mean, a lot of these are, but this one especially, like, very much can picture myself in the Pontiac, the old red Pontiac.
Ford Aerostar.
Yeah, driving around.
I love that this one is what started the conversation. That feels awesome.
Yeah.
And then now it's recorded. That feels good.
I feel like we wanted to do this one earlier, but it felt like for some reason it was like, well, we can't do that first idea yet. Like, we've got other ideas we have to get to. It just felt like the right time to do it. So, and I didn't want to be too corny and do it for like Father's Day, because I didn't want to wait that long. That's not till what, like June or no, May? I don't know. June. When's Father's Day? June. I don't even know.
June.
So, all right. Well, good to see you again, Shane.
Good to see you guys.
Thank you for this.
What's your next time, buddy?
All right.
Appreciate it.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.